YouTube and Twitch, even though I'm not really twitching too much. I need to like put the time into Twitch. I haven't like
heard it popping, so yeah.
I haven't. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna put that on my radar. So we are live. Let's make sure that we're kicking on the old LinkedIn machine. And I should have asked you this off. What's the proper pronunciation of your last name?
Mengert.
Mengert. All right, cool. Mengert. Let's fix that up. What up, everybody tuning in? We are just getting started here. It is Monday afternoon. We made it to the, it's a midday point for some. I call it like, the start of the second half of the day. I'm with my man, Frank Mengert. Welcome to the Podcast Live, my man.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. This is exciting.
Absolutely. Let's just make sure we're flying over here. Sometimes the StreamYard machine doesn't always pick up. We'll give it 1 second here. We will get to that in 1 second. So Frank is somebody that I've been following pretty closely for a while, and Frank has incredible content. And I think that he really hit the nail on the head as far as understanding how the platform works, because I think that's what really applies to any of the social media platforms. Understanding what content works, what messaging works, what resonates, and how to build an audience. We're going to get to all that fun stuff in a minute. If you bear with me, I'm just making sure that we are LinkedIning. Come on. There we go. Great. Fantastic. Let's get that up and going. Let's see who's with us this morning. Who is with us? Let's lower that. All right. Welcome. It is the 20th day of April in the year 2020. I feel like every day is kind of blending together, right? Like, I mean, how do you separate the days? How do you make them stand out?
Well, today might stand out for some people who celebrate 420, so I'll give a shout out to those people.
Yes, it is 420, and 420 changed a lot, right? Like, I mean, I'll call it what it is. I celebrate the flower, right? I mean, there's no shame in saying that at all, but it's definitely changed a lot in the last 20 years since I've graduated college, right?
Every day is 420.
I mean, it's definitely changed a little bit, and whatever gets people through now, right? And I think there's so many benefits to that, but that's a whole separate conversation. But happy 420 to everybody that celebrates. It's an awesome industry. I love to see it growing. I've actually had Jared Mirsky. I don't know if you're connected with Jared Mirsky. He's one of the leading brand marketers. He has an agency that focuses on cannabis brands. It's pretty awesome. I had him on my podcast a couple months back, and he's going to be on the live show next Thursday for my happy hour. I tried to get him on today, but it's like, dude, it's my holiday. It's like a busy day for me. So a couple things I just want to shout out about Frank's content, and I alluded to it before. To stand out on the flow of LinkedIn, you have to stand out, right? You have to have, a billboard. I mean, that's really what it is. You got to stop people in the tracks. You got to get their attention. Bear with us. Hey, and you definitely need to stand out on the platform. Now, Frank, when did you join LinkedIn?
I joined probably 2009. I think I created an account, if that's what you call joining. Yes, I created my account. I think it was either 2009 or 2011.
But when was it that you really kind of caught the bug and said, you know what, this is a platform that is going to be awesome for connecting with potential clients, spreading my message, and building a brand? When did that kind of flip for you?
November 2018.
Awesome. And is there somebody who like you caught your attention on the platform, someone doing it well that you learned from?
I started at the advice of Gary Vaynerchuk. I met him in May 2018, had the opportunity to sit down with him, kind of, get some advice from him on my business and all kinds of things. And of course, branding was a topic. He asked me what I was doing around my brand, and basically I was doing zero. So he said, start creating content on LinkedIn. He said, it'll change your life professionally and personally. And I didn't believe him, even though, advice from Gary V.
You got to follow his advice, man.
But so it took me, a couple months before I put that first piece of content out there. But it was him who kind of put me in that direction, and it lingered in my head for a few months, and then I pulled the trigger.
Awesome. And have you always been a natural, extrovert? Is it something like, have you always been kind of a showman? Because you do it well, man. Like, you have a presence, you have a voice, you stand out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not, I actually have, I mean, I'm not a shy person, so I'm not introverted at all. If I go somewhere, I'm always willing to talk to people and be kind of, who I am is I am outgoing. But to flip the camera on myself and to put content out there, I would have never, that's not something that I ever aspired to be. It was not like, hey, I love the camera. I want to be kind of, out there and put my life out there. So yeah, it just, I'll tell you, my first video, I've been saying this recently because I've been asked, but I looked like it was like a hostage, somebody, I need someone to send me ransom. That's how my first video looked. So I've come a long way.
But everybody has their first, right? Everybody's got their first, and you remember it. Mine first was a little emotional. My first video that I recorded, my buddy was in the final days of his battle against cancer, and I filmed. That was December of 2018, and I filmed the video outside of the hospital in the parking lot right when I came out, and it was just straight emotion. I mean, it was just raw. And I let it fly, man. And that was the start, because you have to take that first step. And so many people struggle because they're scared. I mean, video is intimidating. I mean, you and I do it every single day. That's something that you and I have in common. Our styles are a little bit different, but we're both putting out a message. And I think it's really important to have a unique style and voice, because that's part of your branding. So part of your branding is 5 questions with Frank. And I love it. You have guests on, you get right to it, the hard hitting questions. So today we are going to flip the script, and I have at least 5 questions. It might be 6, anywhere to 8, but probably no less than 5 questions. So we will start it off. You ready for 5 questions with the pause?
Let's do it.
All right, so here we go. So I am a recruiter by trade. I interview lots and lots and lots of people. And the first question that I ask any candidate that I'm speaking to, I don't need their full chronological order. I already did my homework, right? I already looked at your LinkedIn. I already looked at your...
And family is extremely important to me. My daughter means a lot to me. Just the world. So anyone out there who's a parent kind of resonates with that. So that first and foremost to me, people, that's my success in life. And that for me is what I've achieved, knowing that I say quite often, if you strip away all the material things in your life, see what's left, see who is left. So for me, it's very easy there to know who's left. And that is something that's important to me. So me as a person, that's it. As a business, I'm a business owner, and I run a company called EBM. We're a national benefits technology firm. Been doing that since 2011, and I have a lot of passion for what I do. Awesome. I have a great team behind me, great people that we support. So those are things that keep me driven, and I'm inspired. I'm inspired daily to be a better version of myself. And
I love it.
Every day I want to get incrementally better.
Right. I mean, that's right. I saw a couple of those eye charts where it's literally like if you're 1% better every day incrementally, what that adds up to at the end of the year. But the piece that they don't tell you is you take that 1% step forward, you got to watch all those steps backwards, right? And especially during the time now, we could certainly fall into bad habits. And BenTech is interesting, right? Benefits technology.
So we're in benefits technology, specifically employee benefits. So large employers offer benefits, medical, dental, vision. We're the conduit that sits between the employer organization and the insurance carriers. So employees go on there, they enroll in their benefits, make elections, get educated. We handle compliance and all that stuff. So we're making sure that employees have access to care and are educated on that care.
Got it. And who's your target? Are you working with large enterprises? Are you working with mid-sized small businesses? Who's your core target?
Well, our mid-size to us is 100 employees to 2,500. There's a lot of businesses in the U.S. that fall into that category. So there's a lot of opportunity there. We do work upwards of 4 or 5, 10,000 life cases. But again, U.S. based businesses, most of them are in that 100 to 2,500 space, and that's our target.
Got it. And let's do a quick pulse check of your business right now during the pandemic. I mean, how's it going?
Yeah, so I kind of refer to this whole thing as someone throwing a big brick or a rock into a lake, and there's this kind of ripple effect. And there's people who got impacted right at the beginning, and they were right there, and they got hit on impact. So like restaurants, gyms, and other folks like that. And then there's as those the waves and the ripples go back, more people get impacted, and we're more towards the shore. We didn't get impacted kind of directly, but the ripple effect for us is our clients. A lot of our clients in hospitality and other industries, home health care, they're the ones who got hit. So we feel the effects of them getting hit, but there's been a lot of new business for us because a lot of companies are now forced to work from home, and they need work from home. They need employee self-service. They need access to technology. So for us, there's actually been an increase in new business, which is
that's great.
It's typically slower around this time of year.
I mean, it's unfortunate the reasons why, but I think it's okay to say that's fantastic news, right? I think that a lot of people have that. It's kind of hard for people to wrap their head around that too, where it's okay to support like reason, like if people are generating business because of this in a good way, right? We're not talking about any of the shady people, like, with the, the upselling of masks and PPEs and everything. But if you have a business that's doing well because you're supporting and helping people right now, more power to you. And that's incredible. I mean, my business is tough too. Recruitment, I work I specialize in digital marketing, advertising, media industry, and countless people have been laid off. They've been furloughed, hiring freezes across the board. The flip side of it is a lot of small businesses that I work with and startups that have filed for the small business loans. And one of the stipulations of the loans is that they have to have payroll up and backfill any positions that they got let go by early June. So there's a lot of opportunities in that area too. So you got to find the silver linings, and you got to find, where the opportunities are. And also, pivot and innovation. How are you working with your existing clients in a kind of advisory, consultancy, pivoting kind of role where maybe you haven't, I'm not saying you haven't been a consultant before, because that's something you do day in and day out, but how are you changing that dialogue during these times?
Well, I think it's a way the conversation is now. I think everyone has to be, like you said earlier, sensitive to people even saying, wow, it's great to see that you're doing well. It's like, we shouldn't feel that way. And even having conversations now in business, my product, for businesses out there that can solve for a need, and there's a pain point for an employer right now that they can say, hey, we can help. There's a way to deliver that message where you're not being opportunistic, and you make sure. I tell people now is not the time to ease back on marketing. Keep your foot on the gas, because you need to be out in front of people, and whether they need you or not, at least they know that you're an option, and especially if you have something that is of value during a time like this. So for us, it's just kind of massaging the way. We're not aggressively out there trying to sell, and we don't do that anyway. But we're not saying, hey, we know you need us, let's capitalize on this. It's more of a different conversation to say, if you need us, here's what we have. And most of our partners understand that.
Yeah. And I agree 100%, right? I mean, it really comes down to your tone and your messaging. Let's try out my new graphic there. There we go. It's looking good. Yeah. We'll play around with that. We'll move that. No, that doesn't work. We'll move that out of the way. I could put my head up there. I could take it down. I love the toys, man. I mean, the live streaming is fun. It's been a completely new channel. And one thing that I really, really admire and appreciate is your messaging. I don't know what your breakdown is, but if I'm just a casual observer, I would say that probably less than 15% of your messaging is about your actual business, right? Yeah. Like, you're really not pushing that, which I think is the way to go. Like, you don't need to jam it down people's throats. You're bringing value in so many other ways. And I agree, I would say, with about 95% of your content. And that's great, man. If I agree with somebody 95%, I agree with you, your approach to DMs. I think that a lot of people are getting it wrong on the platform. Like you, I get hundreds of them. And some of them are god awful, whether it be automated. And it's even worse if it's not automated. If you're sending me a message where you haven't taken a moment to look at my business, see who I am, see what I do, and be relevant, right? Like, why do you think people have such a problem, with direct messages and outreach on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the problem is that people, it's gotten a bad rep from people, where if you do genuinely want to reach out to someone to kind of connect and engage and build a relationship, everyone is kind of on the offense now, because it's like, wait, what are you trying to sell me, man? What's going on here? I'm trying to do my part to limit that and educate as much as I can around the proper way to communicate and build relationships, especially through the DM.
Yeah, I mean, and I think these are valid points. And I think there's two schools of thought on this. I think one, either people don't know and don't care, and they're automating and they're just spraying and praying, or they don't know how, or they haven't been informed. And I think that's a time where you add value across this platform. Like, not only are you an expert, creator on the platform, but you're a salesman, you're a business owner. So you're speaking from experience and heart. Now let's flip over to video content, right? I mean, you're killing it, man. The videos are great. First and foremost, what's kind of like your philosophy for creating video? Is it like loud and in your face? Is it kind of, I want to like entertain, I want to provide value? Like, how do you mix it up and kind of come up with your own formula?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're familiar with my man Patrick Bet David, he's all about edutainment. So I think there's a mix. I think, some people may be strict, kind of, I want to, come here and be very, by the book and learn. And there's people who come on here and want to see viral videos and stuff that, that's not interesting to me. I want to be I want to bring value, but I also want people to see me as the person. This is people, you see me outside of here, you run into me on the street, I'm the same guy. So that's what I bring to video. And I'm very, that's my energy and things like that. So video for me has been just a way to be able to build those relationships and show people it's me. Like you said, 95% of my content. That's awesome. But there's the 5% you don't like. That's cool. We're human beings. We don't need to agree on everything.
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's a lot of things, and it's cool also to disagree with people, as long as you respect them. There's lots of people on this platform that I consider friends. There's lots of people that I disagree with on a lot of different points, but we treat each other respectfully, and we have, smart, intelligent conversations, right? We're not demeaning each other. And I think that's, certainly what it's all about. Now let's walk through your video production journey for a bit, because it's getting refined, man. It's getting better and better every day. Did you always edit? Because I'll put it this way. I rarely edit, but that's just my style. Like when I put out my own videos and my own content, like I just go off the cuff. I notice a lot of your videos are edited a lot. Is that something that you do intentionally? Is that something that you do because you want it to be more effective? What's kind of your approach there with editing?
Yeah, I mean, the editing. So I do still post one original piece of non-edited video once a week. I do Friday Frankie Babies from the Car, it's called. So, yes. But yeah, every other video I put out there is an edited piece of content. You said it earlier. I think we whether people want to admit it or not, we're competing for eyeballs. We're competing for attention out there on the feed. And what's going to stop someone from scrolling? Maybe it's my thumbnail. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's the way I stick out in the feed. Who knows? But I'm going to do everything I can to bring value to my audience and meet new people as well. And if me making some tweaks and changes to the format of how I appear in the feed help, then that's why I stuck with it. So yeah. I mean, I started creating content with my cell phone. So that's how it started. Over time, now I do mostly everything I put out there is edited though. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a refinement to it too, and I think folks like yourself, and I'll put myself in that bucket too. We are content creators. We're evolving on the platform. We're figuring out what works for us. We're figuring out what resonates with the audience, and we're tweaking. And you're right about it, man. You got to stand out, right? Like you got to be that billboard, that stop sign on the feed, right? And whether it be with your video content or whether it be with the written content, it's all about kind of testing it there. Another piece that I really like about you and your presence on LinkedIn is your audience building. It's highly engaged. You get a ton of metrics, a ton of engagement, good metrics, right? Because there's a few different types of metrics there. What are some of your actually, let's take it back a little bit, about your audience building journey, like where did it kind of start and how did it pick up steam, and like what are some of your tactics to keep your audience engaged and involved with your content?
So I've been creating content now for just about, I think this is like my 17th month. I was trying to figure it out.
It's like a baby, right? We still counting months.
Yeah. So it's been a while, it's not like I just started doing it, but it's been a relatively short time, but it's been a while when it comes to, when I look back at my first video that I put out, cell phone selfie videos for probably, I would say 6 months. And I did non-captioned videos for maybe 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, me too.
Someone reached out to me and hit me up and said, "Hey man, you should add captions to your videos. I think it'll be a game changer. I like your content, but I can't always listen to it." So I added captions and my views engagement went like doubled, tripled.
100%. It's not that hard either.
No. So that was like a small thing. And then, just doing stuff in frames and, kind of some other popping with elements and things within my videos naturally came over time. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a journey, but it was, it wasn't always like it is today. My engagement rate, which I track, is pretty high for social media. It's around 10, 11%.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's great, but I used to be like 0 point something percent, less than 1% at times. So,
well, it's a journey and it's a hard thing too. People think they're going to hop onto a platform and just crush it out of the gate, but they don't understand. They only see, for both of us, they only see the tip of the iceberg, right? They see that finished product. How much time, because you run a business, I run a business, but we're also content creators. We're in the same boat. There are a lot of similarities. How much time do you think you spend a week dedicated to creating content?
So I don't edit my own videos anymore. I did because I call myself a tinkerer. So I wanted to learn how to edit, how to cut, how to do all the things around my videos. So if someone asks me, which many people do, hit me up and say, "Hey, how do you do this? How do you do that?"
it?
And I'm like, "Hey, here's how you do it." So I don't want to be the guy, and it's okay, but I like to know. So I wanted to be the guy that can answer the questions. It's not going to get off guard. You have me on an interview and ask me something, I'm like, "Oh, I don't know."
Yeah, right.
I pretend to do that. But it is a while. I don't edit my own videos anymore because you're right. It takes
time is money, my friend.
Content is a commitment, but editing a single video of mine, because my captions, I like them added manually. It takes about an hour to edit, chop up, do all that. And I do 5 pieces, maybe 6 a week. I don't have 5-6 hours to edit videos. I need to focus on running my business. But it's a lot of work, but I do spend time on LinkedIn as well. So if you think about it, me spending 14-15 hours a week on LinkedIn, I could be doing other stuff. So, but I look at it as the time I invest on LinkedIn, interacting with other people's posts, my own posts, meeting new people, just hitting up DMs. That's time I'm investing in relationship building,
100%.
Which of course helps with sales.
Absolutely too. And interesting thought, because I've been having some debates with people here too. Some people, and there's a difference between open to network, and there's a difference. We're not talking about, the grow your network post, but some people say connect and accept every request that comes in. I do not agree with that, and I'll give my perspective in a moment. What's your thought process? I'm sure you get tons of requests every single day. What's your approach there?
Yeah, so I don't accept everyone. There are some criteria. A lot of times, someone doesn't have like the easy things, no profile picture, really skeptical.
Yeah.
They haven't invested in an about section or education or job or anything like that. Usually, to me, if it could be a legit profile and they could just be getting started.
It could be new, right? Yeah, they could be starting out.
They just haven't invested in the time to build their profile out, which should be step number 1. Build out your profile, then try to build your network.
Agree.
So those people I won't accept. I don't hit I don't know this person. I never do that, but I will ignore them. But for the most part, I look at someone's profile. If they look kind of like, okay, this is someone I can do. I got to be honest, I stay away from Bitcoin and Forex traders. And,
I was about to say that, man. If I see that in your headline, man, I get hit up on Instagram with that shit all the time. Like if I see that, it's not going to go down, man.
Yeah. So there is some criteria, but no, I don't accept everyone. But for the most part, I give people the opportunity. If they hit me up, somebody hit me up. I connected with somebody the other day and they hit me up with this long message follow up. I ignored it. And then he was like, "Oh, if you don't want to read my article," it was like a fitness thing or something.
Yeah.
If you don't want to read it, you can disconnect with me. No problem. See you later, pal.
No problem. Not my audience too. And it's interesting too, because I've seen some. I've kind of come to the conclusion that there's 2 types of folks on LinkedIn as far as growing their network. There's some people that are very intentional, and I try to take that's me. I try to take a very intentional approach on my network because I am a recruiter. I want to have a curated network of the people that I talk to, and that's fine. There's other people that go out there and they try to connect with everybody as possible, and I kind of understand that logic too a little bit. But the part that really bothers me is I've seen a lot of bad advice talking about people needing to race to that 30,000 connections. And the reason being, for anybody who's not listening technically, the reason being, once you go from 30,000, you can't accept any more connections. The button goes automatically to connect with as many people as they can, and they do it in 8 months. I've been on this platform since 2006. Don't you think for a minute, like I could have, of course, you or I, we've been on this for a long time. We could have that many, but what's the logic there? I mean, like, I just don't get it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have some strong thoughts there. One is you mentioned earlier, grow your network in 3 steps. There's 2 people who I disconnected from down in Florida that do this basically 3 times a week, and that they're trying to grow their network. They're after vanity metrics.
I think we're aligned on who those folks are.
Yeah. So those, and it's, people see it and they don't know. They're like, "Oh, this is great." And they kind of look at them as an influencer and they're taking that and kind of spreading it around the platform. It's not a great way to build because you have no idea who you're connected with. You're just kind of it's like the lion thing that people have in their headline, which I thought was like gone, but now people still do that.
Oh, the lion's back and roaring. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't, and I know people, I've done like post with people, or, five questions with somebody, and they're like, oh, that person, hit me up after you feature them. And, like, okay, great. That's fine. They want to connect with everyone who engaged in the content, if that's their strategy. But just sitting there and hit connect until you max out is not a strategy, because you have no idea. There's no personalization behind it.
No, absolutely. And something that I just keep repeating, and you probably seen it in my post, that follower count and connections does not equal authority. It does not equal authenticity. It does not equal that you are an expert at LinkedIn. It's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to build an audience. What's hard to build is an engaged audience, and not just having followers, but having fans, having fanatics, having people that actually care about your content and ultimately drive business. Right now, there's some people here that are on LinkedIn just for fun and entertainment. There's some people that drive business. So there's certainly a difference there. So, let me do a quick little time check here. Let's do a quick little shout out. I know I'm not even counting questions anymore. Fergus, Scott, what's up, man? Mark, DeRuth's out there. Jenny DePaul, what is up, everybody following us? We certainly appreciate you taking a little time out of your Monday afternoon. May's in sight, man. I feel, and we're in the tri-state area, man. We've been through it. We're in the same boat here. We're in the burbs. We're in this tri-state burbs, man. I feel that the light is at the end of the tunnel. I feel like I could almost see it. I could almost see like a little glimmer. The numbers are coming down. We're flattening the curve. I don't think the kids are going back to school. I don't know if they called it in Connecticut, but they didn't call it in Long Island. They're not going back to school. I'm just praying for the summer, man. I'm praying for the summer. Give me something. I know concerts, baseball, I don't know, but just give me something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Yeah, we're waiting. And I got to say, honestly, if this would have happened in June or July, I think this would have been worse, because no one would want to be home. People would be like, oh, it's summertime. Hey, up here, down south, it's, people were still on the beach and they had to pull them off.
Oh, it's bad.
But here, our pool's closed, nothing's going on. Even though it would have been nice to have the pool open, but I feel like with it being a little colder, I think people were like, it's cool, Netflix and chill. You
know what? It's April. I'm looking out the window now. It's fine. Like it's not really that exciting weather-wise, and I think we'll get through it. What does the word authenticity mean to you?
I mean, it's being who you are. I think before we went on live, but people, if someone anywhere out here meets me, if you're listening in and you meet me someday, I'm going to be the same exact guy that you meet. And it's whether, people love me, people hate me, whatever it is, you form judgments on people that you don't meet in person, but I'm the guy. This is me. And if you meet me somewhere, you see me at an event or whatever it is, I'm that same guy. So I'm authentic to who Frank is and what that is. I'm my authentic self. I don't want to fake. I don't want to impress people. If I'm not vibing with you, or the things I say don't resonate with you, that's okay. Like I said, we all have different opinions. If you don't agree with anything I ever say, then okay, hit the unfollow.
Don't follow. It's simple as that, man.
See you later.
Right? Like you don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. And I say that all the time, man, right? Like I am who I am. Like, and the same thing that you do. You meet me offline, and hopefully one day we'll be able to grab a beer soon. We'll meet up in the city. There'll be some LinkedIn locals happening. I had something on my radar that I was planning for June. It was kind of like a mini Pods Fest. There's a little sneak preview there. Pods Fest was happening. And it was going to be like a pretty cool, like LinkedIn local meetup in the city with some just great people there. And you know what? Everything's on hold right now. And that's a common denominator we all have, that everything is canceled. Mm-hmm. Like, listen, some people are in a better socioeconomic state geographically, their housing situation, whatever it is, but we're all in the same boat. And when was the last time humanity had this? Never that I could think of.
I know. Yeah. Well, not in my lifetime.
No, it's absolutely crazy. So I want to wrap up here, and I'm asking every guest right now. We're going to talk about silver linings, because there's so many of them right now. And I'd love if you could share a professional silver lining and a personal silver lining with us.
So the professional silver lining in all of this is the fact that our business we have new business coming on. Our clients are getting impacted, but we do have new clients that we're bringing in. And that silver lining for me is knowing that we have enough revenue to keep my team on. As a business owner, anyone out there who owns a business and needs to make payroll, they know what it's like to have to worry about their employees that have families to feed, bills to pay. So for me to know that my team can go to bed at night saying, hey, my job's here and it's going to be here, that for me is really important. So to know that we've got inbound business is, it's tragic what's going on. But since, the business we're in we are thriving. So that's, for me, is really important. And then, personally, it's given me the opportunity to be home a lot more. I am on the run a lot, especially running a business. It's not anyone out there, again, who runs a business, the hours you have to put in to make sure things go well. So being able to be home is not a bad thing for me. So being, it's all good. And it's not driving me crazy. I know people that are going crazy, want to get out of there, but
no, I'm good too. And I realize actually we got another 15 minutes till Joe Q comes on. So if you don't mind hanging out with me for 15 minutes, we're going to dig a little bit deeper. And I want to go back. I want to go back to selling right now. Two-part question. So it's question 7A and question 7B. So question A is, why do you think so many people are having a hard time figuring out that selling message right now?
Because they're doing it wrong. And it's not even individuals. I feel like if you work for a company, you're probably being told what to do by a sales manager saying, hey, here's what we need to do. Hit these people, here's what the pipeline looks like, whatever, you got to go out there and do this. So they're basically saying, okay, I'm being told to do this. This is part of my job. And the problem is with the trickle down effect from leadership, because you see those emails, oh, we're COVID-19, you've been affected. And we care about you. Like, no, you don't. You don't care, and there's so many of them from big companies that it's like we're numb to it. So do
you think like a shoe brand that I ordered once from 18 months ago? Do you think I give a shit about their COVID policy right now?
Man, it's crazy. Yeah, it's like and the messaging is all wrong. The messaging that they're doing it, their approach. So I feel like even big companies aren't getting it right. I think from a smaller, if you have control over what your biz dev is and how you're selling, I think people that are doing it wrong, just they probably are always doing it wrong. I feel like anyone who's compassionate and who has empathy as a salesperson and who's always trying to do right by their client is in the groove of things. They know, so they're not. They didn't miss a beat. And I feel like there's people there that kind of, it's okay. I know how to pivot. Know how to have a different message. And then there's people who've always been doing it wrong and they'll continue to do it wrong. And then they'll wonder why they don't meet quota or they don't get it.
Exactly. Well, you answered 7B there. So I'm definitely cool with that. So one of the things, and you and I were going back and forth on it too, and I'm going to give you some kudos and props and thank you for giving me the idea. You had your daughter on your show. Was it back at the end of 2019?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And our daughters are close to the same age. My daughter's turning 8 in June. And it was awesome, man. I loved it. It was like personal. I mean, it hit the heartstrings, but it was legitimate, man. Like you weren't doing it for likes or any of that shit, but you're doing it because you care. And I'm sure your daughter, like my daughter, is so interested and involved. Daddy has a TV show. Daddy's on YouTube. And that's kind of cool, man. We're gonna look back on this and like imagine like when they're like 18 and we're pulling up these videos for them. And they're like sitting on our laps and like, interviewing pops and everything. That's going to be everything, man.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be everything, man. And for me, that kind of brings up the word, legacy, that really talks about, legacy. So what does that word legacy mean to you? And like, if I was going to say right now, if Frank disappeared, like, how do you want people to remember you, dude?
Yeah, no. And that's, Dave, you're right. If I did, I think about that, if I was gone tomorrow, what happens and what would people think about Frank the person? So that is something that I think everyone should be thinking about as they live life, not just quick. Hey, I'm going to do today what I need to get by, and I don't care who I burn and what bridge I tear down, because that lives for a long time. So I feel like for me, it is legacy isn't just about me, Frank, personally. People who know me and say, hey, man, he was a good dude. I remember he hooked me up, whatever, tried to go out of his way to help someone. I do try to do as much as I can to help other people if I have knowledge to share. And I feel like that's part of my legacy is that I want to know, or at least I would like to think that I've made impacts in people's lives in one way or another, not only through the content that I create online, but in person and when I meet people and interact with people and try to help. So that for me is something important. What are the people going to say about Frank when he's gone? I hope it's all good stuff.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And it's interesting too. So I did the video with my daughter in December too, and I spun it around on her and I had her ask me questions and interview me, which was absolutely incredible. She loved it. The family loved it. And for me, when I think about that word legacy, I want to leave this place, this earth, when my time is up better than I found it. Right. And for me, That's about creating two amazing, beautiful children that I know are going to be better than me. They're going to be better than me in every single way. Why? Because I taught them. I showed them the ways of my mistakes. And yes, I want them to make their own mistakes because that's how they grow. But I know that they're going to make a bigger impact and leave this planet just better. How are you teaching it? Like, how do you, if you don't mind me asking, like, is she asking questions about what's going on right now? Like, how do you guys explain it? Like, how open are you? I'm just curious if you don't mind.
Yeah. So we're not, we're kind of, my wife and I are on the same page with watching news in the house. We watch enough to be just informed a little bit, what's going on, what's happening. But we're not somebody who has a news channel running.
Oh man, I can't stand that. Like my parents, I'm like, shut the news off. You can't be watching that all day. It's gonna drive you crazy.
So she's aware, obviously, hey, I haven't been to school. I mean, literally, I was saying, the other day, my daughter, she hasn't left the house. She hasn't seen her friends. She hasn't seen our family. We haven't seen anyone. I haven't seen my mother, my in-laws, no one. So it's not like we're seeing people kind of behind the scenes, don't tell anybody. So she's taking it really well. She's interacting with her friends. She's, my wife and I have become teachers,
we're crazy.
Doing homeschooling and all that stuff. So, she kind of gets, hey, what's going on? And I think she should, because she's in the, 20 years from now, this is going to be something that none of us are going to forget.
No.
So I think it's, she's informed enough to a point where she understands what's going on and the severity of it. But she also, it's something that she does need to understand, this is real. We need to be safe. This is why we're not leaving the house. So so we're doing good.
There's a balance there, man. As long as we have summer, right? Because if you take summer away from these kids, it's tough too. And my daughter goes to day camp. She doesn't have that. These are things that they look forward to. But she's done some cool stuff. I don't know about your daughter. They're doing the kids Facebook Messenger, so they do group chats. They're connecting, they're FaceTiming. We did a couple of like drive-by play dates. Which were kind of fun because they still need to see each other. They still need to have that connection. But it's how you explain them, and this is the ultimate teachable moment. Right? Like the ultimate teachable moment. They're learning and they look at us, right? They look how we handle it. And listen, man, I've been stressed out at times. I've taken it out in a bad way, but they have to see how you handle it and how you course correct.
People underestimate that what kids and what they listen to and what they consume and how they act. I do not. Kids are very bright. They learn and they're impressionable. So I'm very cognizant of that.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. So, there's a few questions that I call my go-to questions that I ask, every guest that comes on the show. And I'll drop them on you. I think we're up to number 9 now. So you're getting double 5 questions with Adam here. Right. What is the single greatest piece of advice you've ever received that you take action on every single day?
So it's funny because it's newer to me. There's someone on this platform, which I give props to a lot because I learned it from him. Keenan.
Keenan.
That's it. He's
it goes by like one name, like Prince. Does he have like a symbol? Yeah. Okay, Keenan.
He's a sales. He runs a company called The Sales Guy. I watched a piece of content a while back, and he talked about learn, create, and share. And this was like 2 years ago. And I watched it, and it was like something that just like boom, like stuck in my head, And I was like, ever since then, man, that's what I live by. I learn, create, and share. Those are kind of 3 principles that I put into my life and put into practice. It's learn something new, create something that didn't exist, like a friendship or something out there, and then share something with someone. So I live awesome. It. I do it every day.
Awesome. And what do you do for your own mental sanity, right? Is there a routine? Is there a mantra? Is there how do you keep yourself sharp and focused? And not even just now when we need it most, but just every single day, man. Like you and I are business owners. We are ultimately responsible for the success and failure of our company. It falls on us. Right? We could blame other people and there's other external factors, but what the hell does that do? That does nothing. What is it like? How do you stay strong every single day?
Yeah, there's somebody when it comes
magic
to
formula. Insert shot coming there.
Yeah, heavy is the head. So for me, I'm a big believer in my me time. So we get one mind, we get one body. and I invest in that very heavily. So I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to do, whether it's a podcast, whether it's reading, whether it's consuming something that's online or interacting with someone and having a conversation. My mind needs to be as sharp as possible. And then my body, of course, I try to get into working out at least. Even though now we're quarantined, I'm still getting my workouts in, getting my training in, my eating and things like that. So those are, for me, that's what keeps my sanity and my stress levels down, is knowing that my mind is sharp, my body's as best as it can be in.
I love it, man. What's your vice?
My vice.
Your food. What's your food vice?
My food vice is probably dark chocolate. I can dark chocolate, but Cherry Garcia ice cream is advice of mine. That's for sure.
Oh man, it's a tough one. And when you have kids in the house too, I mean, listen, we do our best to eat healthy and set a good example for them. But when you have kids, there's a lot of crap around the house.
Yeah.
And my biggest hate is Girl Scout cookies. I hate them because my daughter's in the Girl Scouts, and every year this time of year, there's boxes of the cookies, and like
we got them. Yeah, you're right. So
I can,
I love some do-si-dos. So
do-si, which is interesting. Those are the s'mores cookies, right?
No, that's the peanut butter ones.
The peanut butter ones.
Yeah.
The s'mores ones are interesting because I despise marshmallow, man. I hate marshmallow, but those cookies are good. And then my ultimate favorite, what the hell's the name of them? The coconut.
I know.
You know what I'm talking about, the coconut ones. I could literally
yellow box. Yeah,
I could eat it. I could eat a sleeve of those. Every single day. What's the first thing you're gonna do when they open up the gates and we're allowed to run free?
I mean, probably I want to get actually back around my team. I miss my team. Being around my family is awesome, but I do miss interacting with my team every day. We have a really great culture in the office, really great vibe. I like to walk around, see everybody, chit chat. So that's a part of my life that I do miss because it's important to the culture of the company.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a quick second here, right? Like people adjusting to work from home. I mean, how do you keep the team together? How do you keep camaraderie, spirits high, collaboration? Because everyone, and we'll just pause for 1 second there. A lot of people are talking, something that's kind of been hitting on me. A lot of people talking that, hey, we've proven out that work from home works and every company should offer it all the time. But there's something to be said about physical collaboration. There's something to be said about that element of teamwork that's missing. So how are you keeping it all together right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a great HR director, but so she's running things really well. We're doing kind of virtual happy hours and game playing and stuff like that. We use Microsoft Teams and we can communicate. So yeah, I mean, just making sure we're communicating with the team from all levels. So instant availability and access, I think, is really important. But I'll tell you, I don't think I'd like to flip that work from home is working thing, because think of online. You and I, like, we can do this, vibe, whatever, chat. We can text each other, email.
Of course.
Let's meet. It's not the same. So the human interaction that's exactly it. You don't get that from 100% work from home. People get around each other, they vibe better. So I don't believe that 100% work from home is kind of the route.
No, I don't think it is at all. But what I think it's going to do, I think that we've seen that companies that have been hesitant can now see that they could trust their employees, that they're not going to just jerk around and watch Netflix all day, that they're going to get their work done. And you know what? The ones that don't, they weren't meant to work for you anyway.
Right.
Those are CD players. They could get the hell out of there. Those aren't the ones anyway. Because the ones that understand that know that there's loyalty, they're part of the company, they're part of a team, they're building something, and they got to get work done. But this is also not standard work from home. Like, I work from home 100% of the time. This is completely different. This is during a pandemic, and a lot of us have kids home that we have to be teachers. We have to be, homeschooling. Some of us have elderly relatives. Some of us are sick. Like, this is not normal work from home.
No.
But it is showing that people can be trusted, and that from a technology perspective, we can get it done.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I agreed. We've always had work from home. So for us, it was, hey, we're in the office one day, the next day, we're work from home. So for us, it wasn't a big lift, but for some companies that had that fear, like, oh, no one's going to work, are seeing now that, hey, wow, our employees, we can trust them. I think that trust piece is a key word you said.
Yeah, I mean, trust is important too. And some companies, I get it. Like some businesses, you need to be face to face. Some you do not. But I don't think we're going to go to like a remote work culture forever. Like people need to have that physical connection. People need to collaborate in an office. Listen, the Zoom stuff is fine, right? Like all that stuff is good. But to your point, there's no substitute for human interaction.
Nope.
high-fiving, chatting at the water cooler, having that real happy hour. And that's what the difference is.
Agreed. Totally agree, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any brands that you see out there that are like, from a marketing and advertising standpoint that are like doing it really well and setting a good example? Love to get your kind of pulse as a consumer.
Yeah, I mean, I think, brands that are out there kind of just saying, hey, we know that I think Levi's or someone put a thing out and was like, hey, so I think the media picked it apart, but I actually saw it because it was like, we know you don't want to buy stuff right now, but if you do, here's taking care of our employees. So they kind of like flipped the script a little bit, which I think was good in the messaging. And then you've got, the other side of companies like Shake Shack who are going to get their butts kicked now for taking PPP money. So
they gave the money back. They gave the money back today.
Yeah, but it's people don't care. They're still getting eaten alive. So,
oh man, it's tough, man. That I'm in a tough spot. My company's not big enough. I submitted, not to get into details or anything, but I'm in that weird spot where I don't think it's going to work out for me. I mean, I hope I do, man. But there's other ways. I mean, you got to tighten the purse strings. You got to be really mindful about where your money's going. And one kind of silver lining is, I mean, I keep getting all these emails from like companies for clothing. I've been wearing the same 3 sweatpants, and I don't need jeans. I don't need work clothes right now. Yeah. We're good. So Joe Q has just joined, and we'll get him up here in a second. Joe, I see you down there hanging out, and it looks like sunny Southern California. It looks like a nice morning out there, and we'll get. Do you know Joe? Joe's senior vice president over at the Sasha Group.
No, I don't think I've ever met him, but I've worked with people in the Sasha Group though.
Yeah, we'll get him over here in a minute. So last but not least, Frank, and I'll wrap this one up, and you'll get the final encore shot that we always give over at the podcast. Not every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows for Frank, right? Not every day is going to be awesome and incredible. And some days you got to dig down deep and really you got to find it, right? You got to find that tenacity to pull you up. And then in turn, man, some days everything's firing on all cylinders, right? Business is coming in. Everything's great at home with the family. What do you look to pull you up when you're down? And what do you look to for gratitude? Frank, what is your North Star, man?
My North Star is this, man. It could be worse. I'm breathing. Life is good. And things could be way worse for me, like extremely worse. So I'm an eternal optimist. So I would say, think about the good in your life, and that should change your path really quick.
I love it, man. And we're going to bring in Joe Q so we could say hello and do a little meet and greet over here. Joe, meet Frank. Frank, meet Joe.
What's up, man?
Frank has worked. Who have you worked with over at the Sasha Group, Frank?
Maribel.
Yep. We'll go way back.
Yeah.
Cool. Good stuff. Hey, Frank, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you?
So Frank Mengert, my name is in there somewhere. So Frank Mengert's good. You can search me out anywhere: Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Anywhere. My website. So find me there and tell me you saw me here. I'd love to meet you.
Awesome, Frank, dude. This is a pleasure, man. Looking forward to continuing building some synergies, collabing, and if you guys don't follow Frank, you should. His content is awesome. Frank, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks, fam. See you later, Joe. Nice to meet you. Bye, guys.
Meet you.
Whoop, I got Joe back, and now Joe is back. I love playing director, dude. I have like this whole dashboard here, right? Like I could flip things in, I could put up the logos, I could drop the logos, I could move my floating head around. It's kind of like my own little Pee-wee's Playhouse here.
You missed your calling as a radio producer.
I've always wanted to be like Howard Stern's my man, dude. Like Howard Stern is, as an interviewer, he's somebody that he just crushes it, and that's kind of how I like to do my show. Joe Q, what is happening, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Adam? It's been a long time.
Yeah, man, doing good. And for anybody just joining us now, Joe, I worked alongside Joe for a little bit during my time at Vayner, which was over 5 years ago, about 5.5 years ago now. And Joe has moved on over to the Sasha Group, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is the small business strategy company that is part of Vayner. Did I describe that right? How do you guys describe it?
Yeah, so we like to think of ourselves as folks that can help unlock the growth of small to mid-sized businesses, kind of hopefully powering their future. But yeah, we're pretty much the SMB division of Gary's empire.
Yeah, and it's so important too for those companies to have the resources. And I assume that you guys saw space in the market, right? You saw that white space where you have these giant companies, these consulting firms, these agencies that were focusing, on the big boys, but what about the little guys? Or is it the other way around, that there were companies out there, but agencies, but they maybe weren't doing it the right way, and you guys could bring a different level of expertise into the mix?
Well, I think it was a combination of factors. But if you look at what we do, it's very similar genetically to what Gary did when he helped his father move from a single point liquor store in New Jersey to becoming a empire of wine retailing online. So that $4 to $60 million movement is really what we specialize in, not those specific numbers. We like to work with brands anywhere from $1 million in annual revenue all the way up to 200. And even some below $1 million because we clearly have some education products and stuff like that. But yeah, there was a little bit of a gap in the market. So if you look at the way a lot of SMBs are serviced, if they're serviced at all, a lot of cases they have all their stuff in-house and have internal operations. But when they decide to work with marketing partners, because they don't have the budgets of the Fortune 500 companies,
Exactly.
they work with smaller, more regional shops. So Sasha's different in the sense that we were born in day one as a national brand because we have the backing of Gary Vaynerchuk, but we're specifically focused on SMBs. And a lot of the people that we have in senior positions within the Sasha Group come from Gary's larger enterprise when it comes to VaynerMedia, and we have the experience of working for decades plus for the F500s of the world. So we bring knowledge and expertise from
It's awesome.
Larger brand marketing down to I wouldn't even say down, but to SMBs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Big shout out to Jimmy the Pencil, Mark Evans, some of my old school folks over at Vayner that I'm still close with. So Joe, before we talk shop here, quick pulse check. How you doing, man? How's the family? And you're in Southern California, right? You're in LA, outside LA?
We are. We're in LA. We're in the middle. We're on West LA, just kind of where Beverly Hills and Century City connect. That's where I live personally. Mm-hmm. Our office is we share an office space with VaynerX over in Culver City. So me and my family, we're all in West LA pretty much.
Got it. And how you guys doing? How you holding up?
We love it out here. We came out here for the sunshine and the ability to expand our family, and LA definitely has its pros and cons, but we were ready to get out of New York, I think, when we moved here a little bit over a year ago. So we're loving LA from that perspective.
Awesome. And everyone's healthy and doing all right.
Yeah, we're all sheltering in place. We're doing our bit. It gets a little bit stir crazy, but we're all healthy, so that's all that matters.
You got to find your space, right? You got to find your mental space. You got to find the physical space in the house. I know, like we in our house here, we had to figure it out in the first couple of days because I have a home office in my bedroom when I work from home here. I also have a shared office space that I use in Long Beach when I'm able to use it. But my wife, she's an attorney, and she had to come on home, and we don't have a home office, so we had to bring up a desk from my daughter's room, and now we have dueling desks. So we had to figure out how to cohabitate in sharing an office. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, everything was in one place, in our bedroom, our bathroom, our office. I mean, all I needed was a little fridge and a microwave up there. And I never had to leave. But you have to get into that headspace. But those first couple of days were rough, man. Right. You have to figure it out.
We're still figuring it out. I think the first couple of weeks we did a scenario because my wife, she's been working from home since we moved here. So she still works for her company back on the East Coast and don't have an office out here. So she's been remote worker since, for 15 months or so now.
Got it.
When the shelter at home mandate got put in place, I was the one moving in. And as were the kids, because the kids all of a sudden didn't have school anymore either. So at first, I tried a situation where I was kind of downstairs on a standing desk, in the living room, and that worked for about 2 weeks. But what I noticed was the kids were constantly interrupting me because I was in a high traffic area.
You were in the middle, man. You can't.
Between the TV and the fridge. So eventually, I told my wife that wasn't sustainable, and I moved my son out of his room for the most part. I took most of his toys out and
get out.
Got in his room.
Eminent domain, man. Eminent domain. Get the hell.
But the Wi-Fi is not the greatest in there. So you can see us right now. I'm in my daughter's room, just kind of like surviving with a laptop in my hands because it's close to the router.
Oh man, I invested in some infrastructure. I got this Netgear Orbi. I went to the Mesh Network, and it was a game changer, man. I'm telling you, man, I'll tell you offline. I'll send you the link to it, dude. Everything. Cause I have 12. It's so funny when I ran it, I have 12 internet devices in my house.
Yeah, we've got a lot too. It's sucking up a lot of the bandwidth.
Right. You forget about the iPads. You forget about, like, I don't know if you have a Nest or any of those things, or any other, like, so many things run on Wi-Fi. So let's switch it up a little bit and let's dig in here. So, you and I were going back and forth, and you brought up some amazing points that I want to talk about here. And let's talk about talent acquisition, right? It's something interesting. And, you brought up this point that recruiters and companies should stop poaching right now.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a time to poach, man. There's a lot of great talent out there.
100%. We're facing the biggest unemployment, time period since 2008, or even beyond that. I believe when all said and done, once we're out of coronavirus madness and we're fully entrenched in the next recession, there's going to be there's already massive numbers in certain states like California, right, Michigan, not only double digits, but they're approaching like 20-25% unemployment.
Scary.
And when you think about it, just sit down and think about it for a moment. A lot of people that were displaced from their jobs most recently were only displaced not because of their skill set, but it was mainly because the companies that they were employed by couldn't keep up in the current economic climate.
Fair point.
And a lot of them, this will be the only time in their careers that they will be on the open market as a free agent. So what I would like to urge for, clients, brands, agencies, anybody that's in the market for talent that's hiring that isn't as impacted by coronavirus at the current moment, keep that in mind. It's just going to be a little tougher to sift through all the resumes you have, because we're, for the first time in 12 years, the supply and demand has flipped upside down. But these people could change your business.
I 1,000,000% agree. And that's what I'm consulting a lot of my clients on too. I'm a recruiter by trade, and we've never seen it. And it literally flipped, because up until March, man, it was a candidate market, man, a completely different scenario than we're in now. And there's so many good people on the market. There's so many amazing people. And if you're a company that's in a position to hire now, or if you're another piece, and I talked to Mark about this a couple of weeks ago, if you're a company that's in a position right now where maybe you receive some funding and you got to staff up by that June 10th to get your PP loans or anything like that, now's an incredible time. It's an incredible time to go after those free agents. And it's tough, because a lot of people too who are on the market right now who have never been unemployed before. Right. There were always those type of people that had jobs, and they got another job and they already had a job too. So it's weird for them too. I'm sure you got some friends and colleagues that are on the market.
I'm seeing it. That's the reason why I've been posting on LinkedIn so much, because a lot of people that are close to me in life are free agents for the first time in a long time. And these are people with great brands on the resume, or great agencies on the resume. They're people that, quite frankly, shouldn't be unemployed right now, but they are.
Yeah, no, that's a scary part too. And it's another interesting conversation for companies. And this is, if you look at it strategically, we are going to open back up at a certain point. We don't know what that date is. It's going to shift in every state too. If you're a company right now that maybe you had to pause your process, I urge you to keep that process moving, so you are not at the starting line when the gate opens, but you're actually, rounding third base and heading for home, and you could lock down new employees. You could get them started immediately versus just starting that interview process. Right. Yeah. Like if you're able to do it, that's a good technique. Now, I'm caveating the shit out of that, right, with like all those other business factors. But generally speaking, if you're in a position to do that, like, I urge you to not hold up. Yeah. Because otherwise you're going to lose all those great candidates that you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of companies are really kind of trying to figure this whole thing out, and they're wading through the waters right now because they're just trying to figure out, when it's all going to end. For the first time in years, a lot of these HR professionals and people are starting to worry about, is the prolonged work from home mandate and the fact that we're not hiring, is that going to change the internal culture of our organization? Are people going to start becoming fearful that something negative is going to happen to our company? But I would say you can't necessarily put 100% of your eggs in the basket of like just doubling down on the employee fear and trying to mitigate that. You still have to have a lot of your focus and energy on the future of what your company is going to do post-corona, especially if you're in a position where your industry is a little bit more insulated and it's not impacted by corona.
Yeah, I mean it's a delicate balance and it obviously applies. But you hit something interesting before, and we're talking about LinkedIn and we're talking about platforms here too. To really use this time to understand that, especially if you're out of work, and tell us a little bit how you're utilizing LinkedIn to help some folks within your network.
Well, I think just understanding how the algorithm, and that goes for pretty much any platform, but especially LinkedIn because it helps out so many people within the job search universe. Um, One thing that we can do as individuals, you don't have to be HR professionals, just people in general. If you're a sympathetic person that wants to make sure that good people are finding jobs, or if you are an HR professional or business, make sure you understand how LinkedIn works. Make sure that if you see a job poster posting jobs out there, that you are engaging with that content, whether it be liking it, commenting, or sharing, because it's going to boost the signal strength of the poster's job post. And what that means is that if you do it enough, you can help your friends find jobs. Essentially, you can connect them with the right opportunities. And if you don't do it, then you might not help your friends find jobs. It's not necessarily on you as an individual to go out and do this stuff. Obviously, it's on the job searcher to go out there and spend a lot of their time finding these jobs. But if you are somebody that can click on some content and really help boost
Right,
it,
exactly.
it could help somebody that's in your network get connected with a job. And why wouldn't we want to do that?
Yeah, right. Like now's the time to help up and help out, reach up and certainly help people too. And you mentioned something funny when we were chatting, and it kind of made me smile. Like we didn't have this back in 2008. I mean, yeah, there was LinkedIn, right? I mean, I joined LinkedIn in 2006, but it was nowhere where it is today, and there was a lot less resources. I mean, the internet's a completely different place. Business is different, online business, networking, shared, all that kind of stuff too. There's so much at people's disposal right now. There's so many resources.
Yeah, for sure. And
Right?
I think that's on all of us, right? The thing that's different today in 2020 than in, say, 2008 when I came out of grad school is that it's a community first and foremost. It's not necessarily just a job board, right?
Exactly.
When I came out of school, there was actually a stigma about being on LinkedIn, where if you were
What
on
do you
it,
mean?
well, if you were on LinkedIn, you were fearful almost because you didn't want the employer to see you there because they thought you might be looking for jobs.
Right. I saw you active. You must be looking for a new job.
Right, but that's not what the platform is now. So first and foremost, it's a community. So you have to understand that, and you have to understand how you're going to be a member of the community as a job searcher and as somebody that has jobs available. So getting out there and understanding that the expectation now more than it ever has been before is to create content and share your ideas. That can, obviously a lot of people are fearful. They're fearful of putting themselves out there for sake of like jeopardizing their reputation. But what I would argue is that it can also be a tiebreaker, right? If you're active on the platform and you have interesting ideas, that could be the difference between getting you hired and having you be the 9th candidate on a 100 candidate pool.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that for a minute. I'm going to put on my recruiter hat. Oh wait, I'm wearing my recruiter hat. Literally. That's my bad dad joke of the day. But let's talk about thought leadership for a moment, and that's something that I urge candidates. And listen, everybody knows something. Everyone has a point of view. And whether or not this is something that was taught to me when I was back working in strategy, right? Like have a strong point of view, back it up with facts, right? And you may not be everybody's cup of tea and they may not agree with you, but if you could really back up all of your points and have a strong point of view, that's what's going to separate you. That's what's going to make you shine. And now's the time, if you're out of work, especially if you're out of work, use this time, put together an article on LinkedIn, put together a blog post on Medium, create a piece of video. Take your phone. You don't even need a fancy setup or, some elaborate, production set. You need to literally just take your phone, flip it around, and talk about something that you know passionately. Because as you mentioned before, us recruiters, and I'm speaking for me specifically, and a lot of people that I know in my industry, we're not just looking at your resume. We're looking at your social media channels, right? We're not going to give you shit on Instagram if you got your bathing suit photos for the summer. But what I am going to look at is your LinkedIn, right? And you don't have to be active, but it's a big differentiator. As you said before, if I see that you're active, if I see that you're engaged in your community, because one of the questions that I ask in an interview is, what do you do to stay, on top of industry trends? How are you being involved in, your field?
Right.
And if they don't answer that at all, man, or if they give me some bullshit answers, I'm going to see right through that. Is that a question that you ask when you're interviewing candidates?
Yeah, I feel like that's something that I've asked since I started interviewing people many moons ago. I think the answers have changed over the years because of the technology and the ways that you can connect with information.
Of course.
And I think LinkedIn specifically the reason why it's taking off so much over the past 2 years is because it filled a hole in the market, right? It was partial, content creation platform, but it's also a news aggregator, right? And a lot of people get on the internet first thing in the morning or in the evening to check out news. And not only are you getting like official, real world reporting in the platform if you're following brands that are news platforms, but you're getting the added extra benefit of getting op-ed or opinion pieces by not just quasi journalists. You're getting them from everyday people that you might be able to trust.
So one of the techniques that I give people, because not everyone's a natural writer, not everyone has that ability. They can't just put pen on paper. So what I urge them is you don't always have to be a producer. You could also be a DJ, right? You could take that content. There's so much news out there. You spoke about the aggregator. You spoke about the news field. I mean, I could literally look at it right now. I could go to my LinkedIn. I could look at the page, and I'm looking at it right now, and it says, here are the headlines. Here's who's hiring now. Coronavirus updates, pandemic test, Walmart force, sports fans. There's a beer making thing. I mean, there's something here that everybody could latch onto. Take that article and repost it with your own point of view. Never just repost an article with nothing, man. There's nothing worse than that. But these are content starters. Like, here's some tactical things that you could do that you could talk about. Yeah. Especially if you're an expert, right? Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah, and it's similar to thinking about in your world, because you're a podcaster as well. Like, you're thinking about editorially, what are the things you want to talk about? But then it's not just that; it's how do you want to do it, right? How do you come across the best? How do you find your rhythm and your voice as a publisher? And that may or may not be video. It may or may not be audio. It may or may. And then LinkedIn's going to pick up on it from an algorithm
100%.
And if they see that you're a better writer, or that people start engaging with your writing versus your videos, then that will continue to propagate over and over again.
Yeah, I mean the algo on LinkedIn is interesting, man. There's people that play it straight. There's people that try to hack it. There's different schools of thoughts there. The way I like to play it is testing and learning. I go back to my marketing roots. I see what works. I see what doesn't work. But there's also a mix for me there too. Like, I get my promos out for my show. Like, I promo all my guests. I do my video promos and everything. And the videos don't always get the same. They used to. When video first came out, the algo had them going through the roof. Now they brought it back down to earth. And there's a lot of time right now that a simple text post with no photos does really well, especially if your content's in there and everything. But I don't want to spend this whole show, talking about that. Let's shift gears a little bit. And I want to talk about, the guidance that you're giving your clients. And I don't want to get into specifics. I'm not going to ask you to name names or anything here too. Yeah. But let's talk about a client that you have that might be in an industry that is just getting decimated right now. What are some of those high level pieces of advice to keep their head above water, but with also that eye on the future? Like, how do you balance that?
Sure. So one thought that keeps coming to mind is, and I'm not going to give you a scientific answer on this. This is more of like a no-brainer economic answer on this, is that if you can afford to stay advertising, then do it, especially when it comes to being in the mid to upper funnel, right? Talking branding specifically, because if you think about what most people, and by people I mean businesses, are going to do, especially from an SMB perspective, if you got limited amount of dollars, there's going to be a big gold rush towards lower funnel conversion type tactics that are going to bring in dollars immediately for brands, and that's great. And I think brands should be doing that as well. But understand that everybody's going to be doing that, right? So you've all of a sudden entered a flooded category, right, where the supply is now going to start to get limited, demand is going to go high. So think about things like Google AdWords, right? If you are going to be in that arena along with everybody else that's trying to create conversion, then your cost is going to go up, right? So the price of that attention is now become more expensive, and you may have to do it no matter what, because you need to be bringing in revenue to keep the lights on. But I would urge you that there is a lot of value a little bit farther up in that funnel, because the CPM prices of stuff that are going to be happening in Facebook and on YouTube and stuff like that, it's going to get cheaper incrementally, is what my belief would be. And when we've seen a little bit of evidence to substantiate this, it's fluctuating right now, because I think the market is still trying to figure itself out. But I think long horizon, again, and I said this before, but once you come out of Corona and now you're in the recession, start thinking about branding, because the people that do focus on branding in the mid to upper funnel, and I'm not talking about necessarily TV ads, I'm talking about how are you putting your brand out in a general awareness fashion on something like Facebook. Brands that do that and do that very well are going to come out on the other end of the recession with a lot better base of customers because they've been putting their brand out there for longer. So keep that in mind.
That's good advice.
What I would put out there to brands is if you can afford it, then make sure you're keeping an eye on that because that's where some of the more underpriced attention is going to be.
But it's about relevance too, right? Like you need to stay top of mind with your customers and your prospects.
Yeah.
If you could afford to be,
100%.
you know,
you're building a brand in the minds of people. So just remember that if all you focus on is selling stuff, then that's all people are going to see you as 2 years from now.
Let's talk about innovating and pivoting too, because a lot of businesses, they need to, right? Like for tactical logistics, whatever you want to call it, whatever their product is, they can't have that physical presence. They need to change their products up. And some companies could do it well. Some companies have the ability to turn on a dime and pivot too. And some it's tough. Like some may be old school or maybe functionally or technically manufacturing. It's not something that they could do. But like, how do you work with your clients on that mindset, that business mindset perspective that they need to innovate and pivot if they need to?
Well, I mean, in some aspects and regards, it's as simple as just looking at the survival of the fittest, right? Like you have to have a strong mind and a strong will to survive in these atmospheres. And similar to, a lot of the businesses that are a little bit more foolproof were businesses that were created in downturns economically, right? People that started their companies in an era where they could take advantage of opportunities where other slower moving, less minded, less innovative companies were kind of conservative to go into. So a good example is a lot of the B2B players that I see out in the space. They typically want to be in, there's a natural itch to be out there doing event marketing, stuff like that, going to trade shows, doing trade ads, stuff like that. But that's not on the table right now.
No, not maybe not for the rest of the year.
Right. So what are you doing in that regard, right? And the good news is that I think a lot of the B2B players have focused on bringing their entire enterprise into the cloud and have focused technologically on advancing their workforce. So they've been some of the earlier adopters on changing up the programming when it comes to events online. I've seen a lot of people going into taking advantage of Zoom conferences and Google Meet and stuff like that. And just figuring out it's more of a pricing exercise for them, right? So instead of like, the all-inclusive airfare to the resort in Southern California, and we're going to do this big thing and bring all these speakers in, they're learning on the fly how to charge less money incrementally, but do more of these events with the same speakers.
Yeah.
They're getting access to speakers earlier than scheduled because they don't have to fly people anywhere.
No, you can just hop right on. I mean, the amount of talent right now, even on my show, even on the podcast, I'm getting great guests that I would normally otherwise have a hard time booking.
Yeah, so instead of selling that,
like Joe Q, this is the hardest guy to book in town.
Yeah, right. So instead of like doing this elaborate thing in the desert somewhere and having like months of prep for it, the prep time is cut in half. You can book great guests, and you just have to focus on making sure your technology is tight
and the content, right? Like in the programming.
Yeah, in the program.
But it's hard to. I mean, listen, it's not the same. It's not. I mean, if we're talking about event marketing, we're talking about the event circuit right now. It's not the same because you're taking out that experiential element too, and it's hard to keep people's attention. I mean, you and I have sat through the webinars, man. Like we've sat through that shit, and if it's not engaging, you're gonna tune out. You're gonna start looking down at your phone. I mean, not that you wouldn't do that in person, but you're a lot less inclined when your company or you are spending thousands of dollars to put you in the middle of the desert with some elaborate, show that you're going to.
Well, I mean, to think about the end consumer as well, right? I think about what would interest somebody if I were to put a conference together. You automatically have to start thinking about shortening the length, right? Like you can't do a full day anymore. Attention is waning. People have technology at their fingertips. There's every excuse in the world to not pay attention to the screen that they're looking at. So you have to go for a slimmer window of time. More succinct programming, less verbose language, all that kind of stuff. But then I think also like the ticket price is a big driver of this.
Oh yeah,
either free or freemium or close to free or low amount of dollars probably works in this environment. But doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you triggered something too that I've been doing a lot of. It's adding value in the upfront right now. Like I'm a recruiter. There's a lot of companies that aren't hiring. I mean, I don't say that I lost business. I say that I lost opportunities. Mm-hmm. I didn't lose business. I didn't have it in my hand and then it went away. I lost opportunities that I would normally have in front of me with my normal course of action and my normal course of business. So what I'm urging is like a lot of folks to figure out ways to add value. How do you add value now? So when the floodgates open back up and there's business, you're top of mind and you're first on that list as a potential client. as a customer, whatever it is, right? Like, how do you provide value now in the upfront? There has to be a balance there. What else could you do? What are those transferable skills? What do your current customers need that maybe you have that you've never offered before, and you could offer it for free now?
So a few things. Being a high idea person, right? So constantly thinking about your customers and thinking about what their business models are, thinking about what their adjacencies are, and not being shy to provide ideas, right? Don't charge for them necessarily all the time. Of course, you have you have a cadence with customers and you have like scope of work and all that kind of stuff, but you shouldn't necessarily shy away from just sending the random text message, sending the random email, getting on a phone call when you have an idea. Don't let the opportunities slip by, because people are looking for innovative solutions in this area. So that's one thing. That's one way I think you can add value. The other thing is providing consult, right? Just making sure they are aware that you're there, understanding what your time looks like understanding that you are willing and able to connect. You're willing to put yourself out there in a number of different ways, not just phone calls, but text message, Zoom conferences, things of that nature. Act as a partner to them versus just a vendor to them.
Exactly. That's a big differentiator right there. That mindset, going from vendor to partner. You're vested in the success of their business. Their success is your success.
Yeah, so just dial up the comms. Make sure you're checking in on them, right? Like if they're a business that's impacted more than others, take a beat and think about that. Look at the news, filter through the news, understand that you have clients that are impacted by this differently than others. So go down the list of clients that you have, try to match context with situation. And if you think that there's any particular way that a client might be impacted, then send that email and just check in on them. Like, people feel good about that. We at the Sasha Group create and maintain an entire robust lit catalog of all of our clients, and we've been going one by one through it just time. So let us know how we can be of service.
That's awesome. So question from the audience here. Libel Schwartz is asking, Joe, do you see a full digital trade show happening? ? Totally new platform?
I mean, if the NFL can do the draft on a digital platform, I don't see why, CES or South by Southwest couldn't. I think it would all depend on whether or not, how society gets back to work after this wave one, and if there is a wave two. It also is very incumbent upon, any kind of vaccines that might hit the market,
Yep.
and antibody tests that might become widespread and stuff like that. So could I see it? Yes. Do I think people would want to voluntarily rush into it? No. I think I think the ultimate experience in a lot of these cases is probably a live event with something a little more experiential. What I could see being a very real reality is a hybrid of those two approaches, right? How do you create maybe a CES where you don't have as much foot traffic and you maybe open the gates a little bit more electronically? So how do you have VIPs in person or
different levels of ticketing?
Yeah. Try to minimize it so that you don't have hundreds of thousands of people going through Vegas at the same time. Hundreds, if not a few thousand people with a much larger audience online.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, this is all uncharted. I mean, it's fascinating as a marketer and somebody who studies human culture to sit back and watch this. I mean, not just sit back, but also be, an active participant and being on the front lines and being able to innovate. I mean, even your boss, Gary, right? Like, he's doing the Tea with Gary V every morning, thinking about new ways to provide value and just help people. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder for me to wrap my head around the event space because I don't know the specific number.
That's not your specialty.
And a lot of it comes over the course of like an entire week. But just being like a sports fan, for instance, a thought popped in my head the other day about what are we going to do with all these 100,000 person stadiums in the southeast of the United States with SEC football, or even larger stadiums in the NFL like the Dallas Cowboys stadiums in Texas. Are we as a people going to want to go back to sporting events that have 100,000 people at them?
It's scary.
Are we going to see a trend of downsizing, right? Like, would stadiums maybe not go after the volume of ticket buyers and instead jack the prices up on tickets? They do 20,000. You have 5 feet of distance between seats.
Right. Like, what are they going to sell every other? Are they going to sell like 2 seats and then space out? Like, are they going to change? That's fascinating too to think about that too. Like, let's play that out for a second. It's spitball here, right? Baseball. I'm sitting in my Shea Stadium seats right here. You can't see them. These are seats from Shea. I'm a diehard Mets fan. I love baseball more than anything, and I miss it. I miss baseball a lot, and I love seeing all the plans that they're kind of tossing around. Like maybe they open up in Arizona. There's no leagues. It's all kind of hodgepodge. Or maybe the teams go back to their spring training spots and they, there's a grapefruit league, there's a cactus league, but they play that out as a full season. And I'm like, holy shit, like, I don't care. Just give me some freaking baseball. I don't care how you do it. Just give me something. But then you kind of got me thinking here. I want to get back and I want to see a game as a fan. A, am I willing to pay more money if there's less seats? And two, B, are they maybe going to redo the ticketing where there's more spaces in between where people sit? Like, are they going to adjust the actual seating?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's going to be kind of like there's going to be an awkward teenage phase when it comes to kind of stuff, because the idea of taking, like, if you took 3 out of every 4 seats out of a stadium and you spaced it out like that, where it's just 1 out of every 4 seat remains, it would look a little bit jarring, right?
It looks like you're missing teeth, right? You got.
I think down the road, like if depending on how society handles like large gatherings, if we can't necessarily wrap our heads around being in a stadium with 40, 50, 60,000 people in it, there might be more of a movement when new stadiums are created to opt for fewer seats, more space between them, a more luxury,
more premium.
Maybe they're all domes. Maybe everything is like leather seats, and you're selling these tickets for $2,000 a piece or something like I don't know, like.
And it's not attainable to the masses. It's only attainable to a select few. I mean, it's interesting.
You could always keep sections where you
the bleachers,
almost like the college effect, where you have a student section almost.
Right.
Like you create a whole section that's for people that are of the local zip codes or something like that.
That's an interesting one, man. So let's bring it home here. I'm asking every guest that's coming on the live show right now. There's so many silver linings. There's so many amazing things that are happening. Give us one personal silver lining and one professional silver lining.
Personal silver lining, I just get to spend more time with my wife, who is pregnant with our 3rd child right now.
So, awesome. Congrats, man.
At first it was just trying to figure out how do we cohabitate and not kill each other. But now it's kind of, all right, well, how can I take advantage of the smaller moments and do little tiny things for her, right? While she's, trying to bring this human into the world. And then professionally, I think one thing that I'm looking into, just, as an aside, I don't know if it's something that will stick or something that we wind up going with, but looking into the idea of what a full virtual or remote workforce would look like, right? So out on the West Coast, Sasha Group's brand new. I've only got me and 2 other people. We might bring on 2 more people between now and the end of the year for creative servicing, but we're tapped into the larger network over in New York and on the Eastern Seaboard. So is that something we'd want to do full time? Are there any benefits to that? Like, would we be able to lower our costs in any way and kind of provide a guinea pig for James to understand, like, hey, would this be something we'd consider in any fashion down the road to lower our costs or whatever? So I think we can experiment more in this time. And now I think the other good thing about it is we're getting so used to having, video meetings with clients that I think we as a professional workforce, not just we as Sasha Group, but all of us, you included, we're going to be better off 5-10 years from now because we're not going to have any excuses for why we can't meet with people, right? I'm doing like 15 Zooms a day. It's not ideal. Like, it's a lot of volume. I haven't figured out how to maybe process my meeting load and my priorities to the fullest extent right now, to the point where I'm feeling great about things. But I do believe like 5 to 10 years from now, we're all going to be better off in terms of how we communicate with the outside world.
I agree.
How we communicate with prospects, and how we keep work in the world going without having to be physically present.
I love it. Joe, thanks for making some time for me this morning. I appreciate it. Good to catch up.
Yeah.
And Joe, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
I mean, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So if you go to LinkedIn and you type in linkedin.com/in/superquattrone, SUPERQUATTRONE. That's my last name. That's where I post most of my stuff. Feel free to connect with me. I like connecting with a lot of people and just networking as well.
That's right. I love that you hyper personalize the old LinkedIn URL. I said I'm just going to own my name, and that's what I went with it. Joe, thank you, man. Be good. Say hello to the Sasha and Vayner family. Sasha and Vayner family for me over there. It's always good to catch up. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate you too. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. And everyone joining us today, thank you so much for hanging around. We'll be back tomorrow with Craig Fisher and Dalton Daltrey. We're going to talk about global and U.S. recruitment trends. We're going to go right to the source with two industry thought leaders. For more, go to thepodcast.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and all the other social channels. Take care, wash your hands, and be good. Thank you, Joe. Be good. Cool, man.